What's up, guys? It is RGT85. Happy Wednesday, but of course we have some video game news to talk about. Two stories going out there that I definitely want to cover. Both of them are kind of negative stories, but you know, we got to take the good with the bad sometimes when it comes to video games. If this is your first time on the channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button. Be sure to like and share the video. Stick around to the end where I'll show you the awesome gift Spawnwave bought me as a housewarming present. Thanks, buddy. But without any further ado, let's talk about what's going on in the world of video games, and we're going to start things off with the GTA Trilogy for the Nintendo Switch specifically. Now, of course, this is coming out on November 11th. I'm super looking forward to this. Like, I love these games. I grew up playing these games, doing hood rat stuff with these games. These games were amazing. These games honestly could solve racism because like everyone in high school, like no matter what clique you were with, no matter like who you ran with, what color your skin was, what your orientation was, like nobody cared. If you had GTA 3, like you were the boss, you were awesome, and everyone wanted to hang out with you and come over to your house to play these games. And so I definitely hold these games very near and dear to my heart. These definitive editions are of course coming to the Nintendo Switch, the Xbox platform, the PlayStation platform. So if you're a console gamer, this is going to be something that you have on your radar. Now, we learned that there will be physical editions coming out early in December for all platforms as well. And the Nintendo Switch version was kind of weird because of the fact that Rockstar themselves is not publishing this game. Now, there were some rumors circulating that Nintendo would possibly be publishing this game, and indeed those rumors were correct. Nintendo will be publishing the physical version of this game. But there's a catch. And you know what? This honestly makes me more angry than the N64 stuff that we're going to get into in just a minute, because I was really looking forward to these games. I wanted these games to get physically released on the Switch, and they were being physically released on the Switch. But guess what? Let's take a look at the box art here for the Nintendo Switch version of the game, and you see there's something not right with this. There's something not good with this, and that is of course the fact that it requires a download for these games. Now, these are PlayStation 2 games. Yes, you remastered them, you redid the graphics for them, I get it. But at the end of the day, these are PlayStation 2 games. So what's the problem? And the fact that Nintendo is the one that is publishing this makes it even worse in my opinion, because obviously this game would need a 32 gigabyte cartridge. We learned that it's about a little over 25 gigs according to the Nintendo Switch eShop page listing for the Grand Theft Auto Trilogy. So it would need a 32 gigabyte cartridge. You would figure that if anyone had access to these 32 gigabyte cartridges readily available, it would be Nintendo. I mean, I understand that, you know, maybe business isn't going all that great. Oh, no, wait, the Nintendo Switch is setting sales records. Your software is selling at an alarming rate. You're making hand over fist with your online services that just aren't that good, but people are still paying for them. So what's the problem? What's the issue here? Why is it not all on the cartridge? And there will be apologists out there who say, oh, well, you know, there could be a cartridge shortage, chip shortage, blah, blah, blah. Come on. This is Nintendo. If another company was publishing this, I would expect there to be downloadable parts of the game. But with Nintendo publishing it, you would think that they would just be like, okay, we need to put everything on the cartridge. So if you're not making quite as much money on the sales of this game, you know, oh, well, boo-hoo. Most of your games you could fit on an 8 gigabyte cartridge or less, which is of course the cheapest one because you do a lot of compression on your games. And yes, Nintendo has done this before with games that they actually published in the US. Games like, of course, Doom 2016, that required a download, but that was very early in the Nintendo Switch's life cycle. That game came out in 2018, I believe it was, on the Switch, maybe the end of 2017. So these cartridges weren't as readily available as something like the 32 gigabyte cartridge should be available nowadays. So it's honestly very disappointing to me, because now I don't really have a reason to buy the physical version of the game. When you're buying a physical version of a Switch game, you want it to all be on the cartridge, because then, you know, if something goes wrong, if you want to play the game, if you have a power outage and you can't connect to the internet, and maybe this game needs some internet connection, we've seen wonky shit like that before with games, you have this cartridge and you could simply pop it in and play this game, and now it loses that appeal for me. So I was gonna double dip. I was gonna buy the game physically and digitally, but now with this whole big thing saying right on the front of it, oh, you have to have a download, it's like, well, what the hell's the point? Like, maybe if it's Vice City on the cartridge and San Andreas, I'll still get the cartridge. Like, is it just gonna be portions of the games, so you have to download all the games? Is it gonna be one or two of the games? Like, it's stupid. This is stupid. Clarify it. If you're gonna do this, just clarify it. So yeah, I'm very upset about this. It pretty much negates the physical version for me, and it doesn't really give me a reason to pick it up. But what do you think about this? Am I making too big of a deal about this? Like, well, the next topic I'm going to say that people are making too big of a deal out of, let me know in the comments down below. And of course, the Nintendo Switch Online expansion pack launched late on Monday night for the US regions. Everyone, of course, downloaded it and played it, and I made a video on it talking about the good and the bad aspects of it. Now, to be fair, I made that video at 2 in the morning after I had just finished assembling a skee ball table that took me 5 hours. I don't even think I did it right. My hands are like, look at like this hand compared to this hand. You notice how this hand's like all blistered and like fatter looking because of the fact that I was using a screwdriver, a manual freaking screwdriver. I need to get an electric one, but I'm the kind of person where I start something, I want to finish it. So I finished that skee ball table. I was exhausted. I took a shower and then I filmed that video. And of course, since then, there's been a lot more sort of scrutiny going on with this whole N64 on the Nintendo Switch on the online portion of these games, just the games in general, how these games perform, how these games run. Of course, there's the whole thing going around with the Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time with the water. You know, there's a big issue with the water. It's like they just used a weird texture on it, and so on and so forth. People are talking about input lag. People are talking about the online portion of the game not working well. And a lot of people are saying to me, well, you know, you were pretty somewhat positive in your video on it. And it's like, I really wasn't. When you really sort of look behind what I was saying, I really wasn't overly positive about it. I was just sharing my experiences. With my experiences online, everything was working good. You could see that footage. You can ask Spawn Wave, you can ask Nate the Hate and say, hey, when you played with RGT, was the online good? And they'll say yes, because we had a blast playing it. But like I said, it's indicative and contingent on your internet connection. So if you have a crappy internet connection, or maybe something that's just not completely up to snuff, or maybe just a server in your area that Nintendo was using isn't running all that well, then you are going to run into problems. As far as the single player games are concerned, like I said, there is some input lag in some of the games. Now, in the games that I covered in the video yesterday, I didn't really notice anything too bad. I'm hearing, which I haven't started Ocarina of Time yet again, because once I start that, I'm going to want to play it again. I heard that there is some input lag with that game, and it's just really weird to me that there would be at least noticeable input lag in a game that, well, it's been emulated since the GameCube. Like, you got to remember that GameCube cartridge or a disc came out that featured The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time and the Master Quest on it, and that game ran fine. It ran exactly like it should. These games have been emulated on the Wii before with the Wii Virtual Console, and of course they were available on the Wii U as well. So it's very strange to me that we're running into all these issues that people are starting to notice with some of these games. Now, some of the lesser known games, I've heard that there are issues with those too. I'm really not familiar enough with some of them. Like, so you know, like a game like Mario Tennis, when I played it, it felt fine, but there could be issues with that. Like I said, I'm not super invested in that game. I didn't really play it as a kid, but the problem is that I think it all boils down to the price point. Do I think some people are overreacting? I definitely do. Like, some people are acting like, you know, this is like worse than like the crucifying of Christ or something, and it's like just the worst emulation you've ever seen. And I definitely don't think it's that bad. I think there's just problems. Of course, the whole button mapping thing is now a big issue with people because of the fact that it feels weird. Like, the default configuration is weird. And yes, you can go into your Switch settings and switch the button mapping, but it kind of screws up some of the games. I had a bunch of people telling me in the comments yesterday when they went to do that to make their own button control scheme, it's just a pain in the ass, and like sometimes the game will just spaz out and even close down. So this isn't something that really works all that well. Why are there black borders around these games? That's something I definitely notice as I'm playing it more. There's like little borders on the bottom of the screen and on the top of the screen sometimes, and it's like, why are we not taking up all this real estate on this screen? Isn't that the point of this, to play these games in HD? But on the other side of the coin, I do think the games perform decently enough. And while you or I might notice something like input lag or something like this, I don't really think that this service is really for us. And that kind of disappoints me to say it, but I don't think it is. Like, I think what Nintendo thought was, hey, we're gonna have these games released for the more casual audience, who people maybe, you know, maybe these people played some N64 back in the day, but they don't really remember it. They don't really play it, you know, regularly or anything like that. They're not hardcore retro gamers, because Well, the hardcore retro gamers probably already have this, or they have a Raspberry Pi, or they have a Project 64 on their computer. There are better ways to play these games than on the Nintendo Switch, no doubt about it. But I do think the Nintendo Switch versions of the game are decent enough, but there's definitely a lot of room for improvement. And this, once again, is a question that we're going to be asking going forward. Will Nintendo actually take the time to improve upon these things? Will they take the time to add in more games? Will they take the time to fix some of the performance issues and graphical glitches that are popping up in these games? Or are they just going to keep going about their business and moving along? Because, well, that's what Nintendo tends to do sometimes. You could be the most vocal person in the world, but if Nintendo isn't listening, or if they just don't care because the vast majority of people aren't saying anything, then you're not going to have any sort of change within the company and change within this. I really think it all comes back to the price point, though. You know, if this was $35 a year, you could look past some of these issues. Oh, there's no button mapping. Okay, whatever. Oh, there's little black borders on the screen. Okay, fine. Oh, the online sometimes is spotty. No big deal. Oh, some of these games have little performance issues. Well, maybe they'll iron them out. But when you're coming in at the $50 price point, which is, of course, what this is being offered at, you expect a certain level of quality, you know, almost a premium feeling to it, because you're paying a premium price for this. And I think that's why most people are upset about this, because of that premium price point. And I definitely understand it, and I definitely agree with a lot of those sentiments, because if you're paying a high price point, you expect a certain level of quality. You know, it's just like a video game. A $60 video game and a $20 video game, they're gonna have differences in quality. So you expect that $60 game to be a little bit more polished, maybe a little bit more AAA, a bit more presentable than that $20 game is. So it's going to be interesting to see what ends up happening with this, because, you know, is Nintendo going to listen to this feedback? Are they going to take these things into account and change some of these things up and improve upon the things? Now, like I said, I don't think it's the end of the world. I saw a lot of people saying, I can't believe I bought this shit. This is the worst shit ever. And it's like, all right, there's a little cap going on there, a little flogging, but I respect the opinion. But for me, it's just that price point makes you feel like you're going to get something premium, and I think at the end of the day you're not getting something that's premium. So that's where the big disconnect is with a lot of people. But let me know what you think of everything in the comments down below. Alrighty, so that's going to do it for today's video, but before we go, let me show you this cool gift that Spawnwave got me for my new place, a calendar. Balon. Yep, it's a calendar. Look at that little asshole, just staring at you like, I made a bad video game. Look at me, I'm a piece of crap, and I ruined Yuji Naka, and now he's retired. Thank you, Spawnwave, for this. This is the only Balan action that we'll have in this house, because we're not buying Balan Wonderworld, because I still don't think Metro is going to sell 3 million. But thank you for the gift, Spawnwave. Thank you guys for the nice comments about the setup. The video quality should be better in this video. Someone was telling me yesterday that there were some frames dropping. I'm using a different recording software now, so I'm having to adjust to all that because of the different background and stuff like that. I'm not using the same setup that I had with the green screen, so I tinkered with some settings. We'll see how this video comes out, but always give me sort of feedback like that, because, you know, even professional people, like, they're always improving, and clearly I'm not a professional person. But let me know what you think about the topics in the comment section down below. And as always, guys, thank you for checking out this video. If you are new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to the channel, hit that like button, all that crap. And as always, I'll catch you guys on the next one. Later.